Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Mavericks presents Kirk Your Enthusiasm. Today I am joined by a guest I have sought for a very long time, my internet friend and yours, Jason Concepcion. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am great. So, guys, Jason currently runs two podcasts that I get in my feed every week. One of them is Six Trophies with his buddy Shay Serrano, and the other is X-Ray Vision with Rosie Knight. But you may know him, and I'm going to do this like you're Khaleesi, and you may know him from NBA Desktop with The Ringer, all caps NBA, and Take Line with Crooked Media. Also, he has been a part of The Ringer's Binge Mode podcast, HBO's official Game of Thrones podcast, the Netflix Three Body Problem official podcast, the Apple companion podcast for the TV or for the excellent science fiction show, which only Jason and I watch, Foundation.
Fantastic.
And he also wrote, and this is like one of the cool things I love owning, he also wrote a story that appeared in Marvel Voices The Avengers, and wrote on Amazon's freebie show, a show called Primo, which I had a great time watching. So yeah, you have a lot of titles.
Produced by Television's Mike Schur. Thank you for running through all that. That's wonderful.
Well, it was fun doing.
And a former compatriot of yours in the video game Destiny, in which we adventured hither and yon throughout the galaxy in search of rare loot for quite a while.
Do you know that was 10 years ago?
It's fucking so crazy. It's so nuts.
It was really upsetting.
It's very upsetting to me that was 10 years ago.
And the reason I know this is because anyway, I want to circle back to that a little bit later. So this is the most you and I have ever actually looked at one another, because I briefly saw you at a summer league where you and Jason Gallagher were running around the desert. Like, you were literally going into the desert filming stuff for Desktop. And I waved at you from a distance. But yes, we've talked for a very long time. I started following you on Twitter in like 2009 when you had like 2,500 followers, which Twitter was a different world then.
It was a different thing then.
But, you know, You've come up in the world, and you've transitioned from making jokes about the Knicks on Twitter to doing all sorts of things, which everybody likes to consume. And speaking of that, I really wanted to start off with your current show, Six Trophies. Now, when I entered the summer, I had two goals of things that I want to do. I wanted to talk to you, and I wanted to talk to Adam Mares. Adam Mares does the All NBA show, and you do Six Trophies. These two NBA shows bullied their way into my podcast rotation. And I say that not, I say that in the sense of it's very difficult to start a podcast these days because everyone has a podcast. Yeah. And so I want to talk to you kind of about how that show came up and the format. And if you could start off just sort of making an elevator pitch to my audience in case they do not know it.
Six Trophies is an NBA podcast, a basketball podcast. We cover the W as well. We're covering it right now. I'm sure for next week's episode, we'll cover the devastating game one loss.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Against the Minnesota Lynx, which I don't want to talk about too much because it's infuriating. But we're a basketball podcast that mixes pop culture and basketball coverage in a fun and entertaining way. And, the thought was, there's so many basketball podcasts, how do we do one? And we decided to go in a way that just fit the way that we see the world, which is kind of stupid, but also hopefully smart about the way we're stupid, and hopefully funny about the way we're smart and stupid at the same time.
It's hard for me to explain it to people because you and Shay have such a great, it's essentially what podcasts were started about, where it's, you're just recording a conversation that two friends might be having about basketball anyways.
Yes.
And you frame it through a series of awards that remain the same, or half of them remain the same, and then the other half are kind of week to week type things. And everyone that I put the show on really enjoys it because Shay is very funny and occasionally very mean.
Very mean to me.
He is mean to you. He's also mean about the Dallas Mavericks, which we will maybe circle back to at some point. But that's okay.
He is quite mean about that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's a really funny show that I just the bits are continuing. The fact that you guys have managed to continue with the Victor Wembanyama audio bit every time. Your producer is a saint for that one.
Yes, I believe that is a fact. Now, no one gets more mean comments than Zuri, our super producer, who recently, in a production meeting, we pitched the idea that Zuri get the same surgeries that Joel Embiid gets if he gets any surgeries during this upcoming NBA season. Zuri would just have to elect to get like a knee scope. Whether or not he needs one, I don't think it's going to work for insurance purposes. But yes, Zuri gets a lot of.
He got to sit out as often as Embiid.
What if right? Yeah,
39 games a year. So how long does it take you guys? You know, you do a weekly show, and I miss it's one of the ones that bumps its way to the top because I like shows that appreciate people's time are the thing that I tend to gravitate towards because you just have a lot of options. Yeah. And I say that as a guy who puts out way too much content, but I just like talking about the Mavs. Same. So how long does it take you guys to kind of put the show together?
It's well, it's about an hour record and change. We usually have a production meeting, maybe bi-weekly. That's about a half an hour, and then I spend the night before. Maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours the night before, really thinking about what my personal little trophies are going to be, which are the trophies that change at the end of the show each week. And so I don't want to think about it in the morning right before we get in. So I'll do at least 2 of the 3 and then leave one open just in case news develops overnight. So I'll usually work on that the night before and then just do a lot of reading, seeing what's going on in the basketball world the night before.
So I wanted to ask you, I think I know this, but I like asking people this anyways, because like I grew up in like Kansas City before I moved to Dallas, and I fell into basketball because my brother was good at it and I wanted to be like him. What's sort of your basketball origin story, and like how did you get into the NBA?
It's a great question because I think it was mainly because of a teacher that I didn't like. I had an English teacher who was like super mean, and this was I'm in my 40s, so this was like the period of time. This is about 6th grade, and this is the period of time when teachers. It felt like anything could go. Like teachers could like grab you and like and like flip desks and stuff. And
the 90s were different.
Yeah, that's what like this guy was like. And he was a big, big Celtics fan. And the Celtics were playing the Knicks. I was growing up on Long Island at the time, and he was very derogatory about the Knicks. And I just decided, fuck this guy. I like the Knicks now. And that was really it. And I could watch all their games because I had Cablevision, and that was the local sports network that had the Madison Square Garden network that allowed me to watch every Knicks game. So that was it. That was really it. It was like I hated this guy, and I decided that since he hated the Knicks, I loved them, and then quickly fell in love with them. This is the Patrick Ewing era.
Sure.
And they were good, which was great. Not quite good enough, but really good. And had a team that felt like you could rally around. So I fell in with them and quickly fell in love.
Well, good enough to get your hooks or to get their hooks in them. Speaking of which, so what are your expectations for this team? I am Karl Anthony Towns is he just elicits feelings. No, he's a man, he's kind of a take magnet.
I know. I had the feelings until recently. I mean, I when he proclaimed himself the greatest shooting big man in the history of the NBA, I scoffed. I made jokes. I'm forced to take it seriously now, and I will say, while I don't think he's the greatest shooting big man in the history of the NBA, I will say at least that he has. It's not like he has no standing to proclaim himself
he's
as
real
a great shooting a big man. Right, yeah. I think you could make the case that offensively he is, a top 2 offensive big man in the NBA. I think, you could say that over the course of his career, which has had spotty success on the court for a variety of reasons. That said, what are my expectations now he's joined the Knicks? I was worried about it because you think this is a team that had such amazing chemistry and was so beloved by its fans because of the scrappiness and the underdog nature and how hard they played and all that stuff. So I felt weird about it, especially because it seemed like we were never going to see the Villanova Voltron fully assemble, right? Like, it seemed like we had everybody, and now all of a sudden we didn't have anybody. But after sleeping on it, I'm excited, and I think it's obviously a big swing. It's obviously let's open the window all the way and really go for it this year and next year and maybe the year after swing.
Windows are overrated. Windows are shorter than everybody believes, and so you might as well go for it. That's
the thing, right? It's really this year and next year. If you look at the ages, you look at the salary structure, which I don't want to get into because people their eyes start to glaze over. But it really felt like they pushed all their chips to the middle in a way that I have not seen in my lifetime as a Knicks fan. This is the first time that you could really feel them going for it from an organizational standpoint, not just saying we have the horses and let's try. It's the whole organization saying we have some nice pieces. How do we add the other pieces and really do it? And I think they're taking advantage of a moment in the league before all the salary stuff kicks in, when there's more parity than there's ever been, to try and make a move. And the move makes sense. Listen, putting shooting, particularly from a big, around Jalen Brunson to give him space to operate is smart. Assembling 2 of the best wing defenders in the league on the same team to try and go head-to-head with the Celtics makes sense. I think the team looked at Julius Randle and decided that he couldn't help them, and when a friendly extension wasn't forthcoming, it made it easier for them. And so while I acknowledge the risks, I'm excited. And to use a 2K analogy that my friend Nick kind of coined, it was like the Knicks had an 85 overall team with 95 chemistry. After this trade, they have a 91 overall team with 83 chemistry. And I think that raised ceiling is worth the stretch, and I hope it works. Obviously, ton of risks, lots of injury guys. Tom Thibodeau's the coach. It's a thinner team now, to say nothing of the tactical evolution that he's going to have to undergo. He's talking small ball, which is a thing you never thought you'd hear Tom Thibodeau talk about. He doesn't have that drop defense big now. What does that mean for his schemes?
Carl fouls like he makes some of the dumbest fouls in existence. I can't wait.
I would say like 5 of the 10 dumbest fouls in the last 8 years are his. And so that I worry about that tremendously. I think he, particularly when it gets tense, he can go into like a low basketball IQ fugue state sometimes. But you hope with the discipline of the other players around him that doesn't raise its head too much. But I think the juice is potentially very much worth the squeeze. So I'm super excited.
I think my take is that the low-key problem is going to be Carl's dad, who is by all accounts a legendary sports dad asshole in the New Jersey area. Like he's going to be in the like page 6 shit. I can't wait.
Well, here's the thing. Yes, Carl is coming home, right? New Jersey guy. That said, there's a lot of father-son energy around the Knicks. Leon Rose, his son is...
They can have retreats.
Yeah, his son is Jalen's agent. Jalen's dad is on the coaching staff. And now Kat with his dad. I think that there's a lot of father-son energy, and this is adding more spice to the stew. And again, I'm hopeful that this will all come together in a way that elevates the entire team and organization. This is maybe the best from a talent standpoint, the best Knicks team I've ever watched, I think. I have barely watched them. I've seen 2 preseason games, but I think it's, from a talent standpoint, the best Knicks team of my lifetime.
So a long time ago, I wanted to have you on to gloat about the Mavericks trading for Kristaps Porzingis. I never did. And then I purposely avoided you whenever Kristaps Porzingis' legs fell off for about 18 months.
Okay.
And then I avoided
a lot of
you.
Knicks on that Mavs team, honestly, that we could have talked about.
The new Mavs Knicks.
Yeah.
And then there was, I avoided you further whenever Jalen Brunson signed with the New York Knicks, but now things have, I would say, worked out to where everybody's happy. And I want to know, how is the Jalen Brunson experience treating you, and where do you have him ranked on your all-time Knicks?
Just below Patrick Ewing.
Okay,
in my lifetime. Truly, obviously the championship guys are a different thing.
Sure.
That was not part of my experience. But he's my favorite Knick I've ever watched, other than Ewing, who was such a warrior and gave his entire body and all the ligaments in his legs to the franchise. But the experience has been beyond what anyone expected. There was nobody, not Jalen, not his dad, not anybody in the Mavericks organization, not anybody in the Knicks organization. If any Knick front office person says, we thought Jalen would be an MVP candidate. No, you didn't. You thought he'd be a solid guard with a chance for a higher ceiling.
Like an all-star. Like a
guy who made like 3 all-star teams over the course of his career with the team. It's
not like fringe MVP level, which
is
what he is.
No way. Not perennial all-star fringe MVP guy. Mm-hmm. And so it has been it's been a magnificent experience. And there's the homecoming aspect too. Mm-hmm. His dad was a bench guy on the team. You wouldn't see him, barely see him, but you'd see him, in blowouts and stuff. But he grew up around the team. And so the reemergence of all these childhood pictures of Jalen like running around the garden in oversized Knicks gear, high-fiving Patrick Ewing is another cool aspect of this, and it's the overall experience has been fantastic. No one knew he'd be this good, and it's just wonderful.
Well, I am pleased for the Knicks fans in my life, except for the ones that savaged my fandom and hopes and dreams all for the Mavericks tanking and the Knicks losing out on that pick. I'm very sorry about that. I'm not sorry at all. It became Derek Lively.
It worked out. I mean, listen, it was, you guys got a lot of criticism for it in the moment, and it worked out, and it worked out gangbusters. So
that's right.
Congratulations.
So I want to pivot broader.
Yeah.
Is it still fun covering the NBA for you?
Yeah.
I asked that because look, when something becomes a job, it can suck out some of the joy.
Oh no, that's true.
And so it is still fun for you.
That's true.
Okay, I just want to know. I know that, and it's not like you're gonna be like, no, this sucks, but.
I mean, when it transitioned to actually being a job, I got my writing start on social media, on Twitter. Mm-hmm. My Twitter account started to take off, and people started to say, hey, do you want to try and write in longer chunks and maybe get paid for it? So I definitely did want to do that. And when I made that transition, it became less fun just because it was really anxiety inducing. It was like, can I do this?
Sure.
And now it's fun still, because I think the league is tremendously fun. And I love the people that I work with while covering it. I think one of the things that's so fun about the NBA, as big as it gets, as the money increases, and we're quickly nearing a world in which guys will be signing billion-dollar contracts, right? That's going to happen at some point. Despite all that, there's like a cheesiness, like a low production value cheesiness to the NBA that's married to this like multi-million, billion-dollar corporate structure that makes the whole thing just kind of really fun. It's really fun. Like the corniness of Jason Tatum, great player, got a tattoo of himself on his back. Like that kind of stuff is fun. The characters. Mark Cuban is a fun guy to talk about. It's just it's a fun league to cover.
Yeah, I one of the things I've liked and why I still continue to do it is like elements of the community aspect. It's not only the people I work with, like we do this live show here, and we do one after every game. And then I have a secondary show where I post the StreamYard link and just let anybody who wants to come and talk basketball with me. And it's very fun because like I lived in DC for a really long time and I just didn't have any basketball friends. So it's, you'd think that, it helps that the Mavericks are good, but it also helps to just like continually, experience basketball with people who like it as well. I mean, that's been a thing that's really kept me in it, even though it's, it's just kind of an extended hobby. Okay. Which team do you enjoy talking about the most? And don't pick the Knicks.
Do I love talking about the most and don't pick the Knicks? God. Ooh. It's a good question.
Because the Lakers give us the most material. Like they're a material factory. It's so amazing. My wife is watching the Netflix show, the Starting Five or whatever.
It's great. I'm watching it as well. It's wonderful.
I mean, the part that she said is good is watching LeBron's family roast him, and everything else feels really weird.
They're talking about his feet, his disgusting feet.
She said that
the toes are all like stacked up on each other.
Savannah says he becomes a baby if he doesn't get a nap, which just probably the most relatable thing I've heard about LeBron James. It's just perfect.
I would say that on the Timberwolves before the trade were fantastic because I think Edwards is such an awesome personality on top of the fact that he's just incredibly fun to watch and great. I like talking about the Mavericks. I love Luka. I think Luka's awesome. I think Luka should remain chubby. This is a take that Jason Gallagher has that I agree with, that I think the thing about him needing to lose weight, I think it's overrated. I think he's able to sustain the banging and the people knocking against him and all that because he's got this kind of like girth to him. I think he should remain. He's
like an 80s professional wrestler in that regard.
I think that's important. I think the mass is important. The way Kai's kind of bounce off him, that like change of speed, all of that works, I think, because he's got this kind of like mass to him. The Mavericks are really fun. I like talking about the Heat because they take themselves so seriously that it's fun to make fun of them, but also they're a great organization.
Sure.
They're
rookie. God, I hate them. The guy whose name looks like Kal-El, whatever his name is, like that dude. I watched highlights of him last night, and I'm like, fuck this. Come on.
How can they do this again? Yeah, that was a team and an organization that I hated as a kid because Pat Riley, was coach of the Knicks, and then was negotiating his next coaching spot with various teams while he was coaching the Knicks in the playoffs against Indiana, which that later emerged and made me hate him. And but as I've matured into an adult, I realized, the Knicks should have just given him everything he wanted, which included an ownership stake in the team. Right. Because look at the success he's had, and look at the success we didn't have over the years.
It was cheap in comparison. Yep.
Yeah. So I love talking about them, and you know what, the Lakers, the Warriors, all those teams, even though I kind of hate them, I do love talking about them. And the Celtics too, who I hate, but I love talking about, and I think that there's a lot to be admired in that organization, despite the fact that they drive me crazy.
I saw one of my favorite things when basketball season really revs up is the expansion of horrendous photoshops that people like Basketball Forever and Clutch Points does. So I'm going to show you one real quick
I'd love
here.
To see it.
We're going to, and I just, it popped up, and I love Facebook. Okay. I'm approaching boomer status because Facebook just feeds me it feeds me dogs and NBA stuff. So anybody that hates it, I'm like, no, this is great. So I'm going to do share screen, figure out how to do this correctly. Entire screen. Let's just go with that. Yeah. Share. See if I know what I'm doing here. All right. So so for those of you, because this is a video audio format as well, it's a Basketball Forever thing. It says Jason Tatum and his son Deuce could be the next father-son duo in the NBA. And
now, whose head is that?
This is like an aged up Deuce. It's so upsetting. And then they gave him a big hog, and I'm flabbergasted. It's what are we doing here? We just need we need all this stuff. But at the same time, I see I love it. Like the clutch points
great.
graphics. It's a great time of year. I don't even know why. You said the Celtics thing, and it triggered in my brain.
I mean, the Celtics are fun. They're drama all the time. This is a team that won the title and seemingly is incredibly unhappy. They're whining because Jason Tatum didn't get any minutes on the Olympic team,
So great.
which I felt was but White and Holiday are getting minutes. It's like weirdly
he played 25 minutes a game in the games he played.
It's just ridiculous.
It's like fine. Fake Kobe Jordan stuff where they're trying to gin themselves up. I love it.
But I enjoy it quite a bit.
Okay, I have one Mavericks question and then one more basketball question, and then we're going to pivot to something else. All right, so right now, the Mavericks fan base facilitates between, and I think every fan base is like this, maybe not New York and LA just because they're big media markets, but we kind of collectively bitch about the fact that everyone seems to be kind of bored by the Mavericks. And, like the Athletic today said they'd be outside the top 4. I think they have to kind of win 55 games. Like Jason Kidd's never really had a stellar regular season. I think they need to be very good this year. Do you think they need to be very good? And what do you think of them? Are they just kind of a team you don't want to see in the playoffs, or should they be a better regular season team?
I think they need to be a better regular season team just simply to set them up for the playoffs. This Western Conference is going to be like a shark cyclone of killers, of really like dangerous teams, headlined, I think we all expect, by the OKC Thunder, who have somehow managed to add like really solid talent around a core that is incredibly young and incredibly talented. You've got the Nuggets, who have the championship pedigree, although there's significant questions about the fit of Russell Westbrook and whether Jamal Murray is what level to which he is washed. Is he like 80% washed?
It's a remarkably interesting question for a young player.
How washed is he? I'll say this about Jamal Murray. People have, over the course of his career, people are like, he should be an all-star. No, he shouldn't. Who gets knocked off the list? 1. And 2, here's the thing about Jamal Murray. His career he's awesome in the postseason. Like, doesn't miss a shot seemingly in the postseason. Kind of sucks in the regular season. Now it seems as if the balance has shifted so that he kind of sucks in the postseason and maybe sucks in the regular season too. And that is a worry. I'm worried about him. Anyway, I think the Mavericks, ceiling-wise, I think losing in the finals should be a fire in the belly. I expect it to be for this team. And I think that they have a chance to finish top 4. I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish 4th behind, or even depending. Listen, the Russell Westbrook experiment has failed in other places. There's a high variance there with the Nuggets. If Jamal is fully washed, if the Russ thing doesn't work, you might see Denver plummet. The Timberwolves, everybody's expecting addition by subtraction, but we haven't seen how that will go. I think they'll finish in the top 3 just defensively. And then I think you could see the Mavericks finish in 4th. I wouldn't be surprised at that. And depending on health, the continued emergence of Derek Lively and other factors, somewhere in the top 3, I think, would not be a surprise. You just don't know. But I think they're a very good team regardless.
I'm looking forward to the Klay Thompson experience because, we've all worked with that coworker who's really good, but also really needs to be told how good they are. They need to be constantly massaged and pumped up and that sort of thing. And I think the Warriors just got sick of that shit. It's been 14 years of it or whatnot, and he's at a new place, and I think he's been very, very humble, like almost nervous, which is kind of cute for a guy who's that talented. So I'm looking forward to that experience. I'm trying to enjoy this because I got blessed with Dirk, and now I had Dennis Smith Jr. for a year, and then I have like Luca. And I'm also a Chiefs fan, so I get to watch Patrick Mahomes. So every day I'm just kind of like, this is great. This is all fun. So I'm just trying to enjoy myself. All right, last basketball adjacent question.
Sure.
One of the things that really resulted in me seeking you out was you and Shay talking after Summer League about how you were in the win. You just kind of hung around the lobby and talked and like saw NBA players, and and I was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. He was more into the people watching, despite your career, you've talked to all kinds of interesting people, but NBA players still draw. Now, when I asked you, I said, have you ever heard of the Fremont Street? And you were like, I have no idea what that is. And so I'm here to just sort of publicly harass you. The next time we're in Vegas, I'm going to bother both you and Jason Gallagher and say, we're going to go to the old Vegas, Fremont Street, Vegas, which
that's downtown, right?
Yes. And look, if you have like anxiety issues and or like photo light sensitivity, we might want to have some substances before we go, because they covered the entire street with a giant television. And I mean 3 blocks. It is an LCD screen and so every 15 minutes they run a different light show. So like if you're, let's just say hammered high, whatever it is, it enhances the whole thing. Anyway, it's the weirdest place in America. And, I like telling people to go there because Vegas is just overwhelming. And like, why not do it further? And it's such an odd place. Anyway, because when you and Gallagher are both like, no, we're here at this really classy establishment. We're not leaving to go to this hellhole. And I'm like, but why? I'm just an odd person. So that's just sort of where it is. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here and I'm going to insert some ads. But for those of you who are listening on the audio stream, if you could do me a favor and subscribe to the show, leave a review, shoot me a message. Any of these things is something that I really appreciate. Those of you who are watching on the YouTube stream later, you guys know we do a recap show after every game where we go live, followed by a secondary live show where I want you to participate. Well, in order to participate, you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel and you need to click the notify bell, because that's how you know when we go live. Of course, I post all this stuff on Twitter, but I really want you guys to be there at the jump. It's a lot of fun to do these shows. I'm going to insert some ads and then Jason and I will be right back. I really know what I'm doing. Guys, we're back with Jason Concepcion of all sorts of places. And he is here representing his basketball show, 6 Trophies. But I wanted to pivot to his other show, which I have really grown to love. X-Ray Vision with Rosie Knight. I bought my wife Rosie's new Godzilla book, and he's read it like 4 times.
That's so nice.
It's great stuff. And so I don't really know how to categorize X-Ray Vision other than kind of a more fandom-centric show, pop culture. I learned about a scary show, which I will never watch, on Adult Swim. Oh my God. I went and looked it up and was like, this is not for me. But anyway, you've got to do such a variety of stuff in your career since I've been aware of you. And I want to know, like, what is your favorite medium with which to make stuff? Do you like writing? Is it audio podcasts? Is it videos?
I kind of think of it as all writing in a way. It was writing that taught me to kind of organize my thoughts. And I call in those skills when I'm talking to you and trying to make a point in different formats. I never thought I would be an on the mic, on camera person. So this was that part of it has been an accident. It turned out I had a talent for it, which I didn't quite know that I did. But I guess to answer your question, I think of it all as kind of writing. Like when I'm doing X-Ray Vision or preparing for 6 Trophies, I do research in much the same way I'm researching for a piece that I'm writing. So I think of it all as like a form of writing, because it's all composing and arranging your thoughts in order to communicate your thoughts. And whether you do that in written words or spoken words, it's all kind of the same thing to me.
So I don't know if I've ever told you this. I think I have. But a friend of mine for several years, her name's Laura. She's a high school English teacher. Back when Game of Thrones was exceptionally popular, she used you and Steve McPherson's back and forth over on Grantland. It was a post
Wow.
called "The New Gods versus the Old: Is Game of Thrones Better as a Show or a Series of Books?" And she used this piece of writing to explain to her, like, I want to say 9th and 10th graders, the concept of world building. And I think she used it in her stuff for several years. And so this was like one of the earliest pieces of writing I remember from you. It's over 11 years old now that we're thinking about really old things. And so I don't know. That was something that I really liked. So you're lucky you were going to say something. Sorry. I didn't mean
No, I wasn't.
So understanding that, then, with all the various things you've done, what is the thing you've had the most fun working on?
Of all time, ever?
Yeah. And it could be episode, it could be podcast series, it could be written video. I don't care. Like, whatever.
I think, I think binge mode is the thing that people talk to me the most about still. I get like DMs all the time from people who are listening to it for the whatever third, fourth time, whether it's the Game of Thrones part or the Harry Potter version or the Star Wars version or the MCU version. People are constantly talking to me about that. Now, that was
the best version. I'm just a real banger. Was Saga. Sorry, go ahead.
That was a tremendous experience because I learned like how to make something really good. But not always an enjoyable experience. You know, when you really drill down to like make something great, it's not like you're having a tremendous amount of fun, but it's probably the thing that it's clearly the thing that really resonates with people, and I love talking about it, and I love doing it. So I think that's like clearly a high point. In terms of like vibes and enjoying it all the time, NBA Desktop, which I co-created with Jason Gallagher, our friend, we won an Emmy for that, was tremendous fun all the time. And then I think peak, the most fun I've ever had was writing on the show Primo, which co-created by my co-host Shea Serrano on Six Trophies, executive produced by Mike Schur of The Office and Parks and Recreation fame and The Good Place fame and many other show fame. And that just getting to write words that later characters would speak like on a television set is so surreal and very insane. And learning about how television was made, it was just cool. Like you're sitting there in the writer's room cobbling together ideas, and it really feels like the thought crossed my mind more than once, like I can't believe like I would pay to do this. Like it's crazy that they're paying me to do this. Like it's nuts. So that was tremendously fun.
That's good. Primo, guys, out on I think Freevee, which is part of Amazon. You just
Amazon Prime Video. You can see it now on Amazon Prime Video.
It's really funny. And I seek out half-hour comedies because my wife and I, because we got 2 small kids, we just don't have a lot. Like watching an hour-long show is always like, yeah, fuck. But a half-hour, 25-minute show, it's like why the Seth Cohen show on Netflix, not Seth Cohen, Adam Brody, whatever his name is, really popped for me recently because it's just like it's short and it moves.
It's all like shot in my neighborhood too, so it's weird.
Is it really?
Yeah, it feels like it's a local show because I'm just like, oh, there's that place.
So you answered my next question already in your previous answer. That's good. So right now, and I'm sure this may change, but
sure,
what is your overall like? If someone asked, what's your favorite fandom, what would it be?
Wow,
because there's a lot. You've covered a lot of stuff that you love.
Let me ask, what do you mean by fandom? Do you mean what's my favorite, like, kind of like...
So I hated the word
fictional
IP.
World?
Yeah, I wrote out an IP and felt like an asshole, and I didn't want to say it.
What's my favorite fictional world? I think it would be either... Oh, gosh. It's really hard. I think either... I think it's a tie between the world of Westeros with George R. R. Martin and Marvel Comics. Those two things. Marvel Comics because it's the thing that... how I learned to read.
Sure.
I love reading basically as a kid, and I still love it. And the World of Westeros, A Song of Ice and Fire series, the books that gave birth to Game of Thrones, because I think it's just, even if he doesn't finish, it's so incredibly fleshed out and realized, the world building, that it continues to spark my imagination.
That's a good one. Do you have any favorite item from Game of Thrones or Marvel that you just like love?
Yeah, I mean, I have. Hold on.
Sorry.
I have the Oathkeeper sword. Brienne's Oathkeeper sword.
I don't know what's better, is the fact that that is the thing that you have, or a fact that it's at your feet. Like,
Yeah,
just go pull up. Oh, fucking
so
hell.
this is. I mean, technically, it was Jaime's sword. You know, Tywin beheaded. You know, after Ned Stark was beheaded, they took ice, the Stark family broadsword. They melted it down. They made two swords, one of which is this Oathkeeper, which Tywin gave to Jaime, and Jaime gave it to Brienne. Was it a loan? Can she keep it? I don't know, but I have it here.
Man, that's fantastic. Do you have any big like holes or blind spots in your sort of your content, like that you either avoid on purpose or want to get to one day?
I want to get to Star Trek. I've seen like all the originals and all of the Next Generation, but
Yeah.
I start to fall off with Deep Space Nine, and then anything.
Deep
that's come
Space
out.
Nine is absurdly weird, and I can't recommend it enough.
Okay, so I began to fall off with Deep Space Nine, and then anything that's come out
Sure.
recently, I'm not counting the movies. I'm very spotty on, but I would love to catch up to it because Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation I watched it all the time. I probably watched, it was always on, so you're always watching it. I think Doctor Who feels like something that
So big,
a
man.
hole that
Mine
I don't
too.
have. And when you talk to people who love Who, they really love it, and they have a favorite doctor, and I can't join them on that journey, and I would love to. And I think that generally speaking, I know and I'm aware of some of the more famous like anime stories, not counting Miyazaki, who's in his own different like realm, but like I've seen Ghost in the Shell, I've watched Akira, but like beyond that, I would love to. That's an ongoing thing where I recently just put in my notes app, watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like I need to watch it because apparently it's great. So that's a thing where it is a hole that I acknowledge and one that I would love to plug soon.
Sure, I got my guy Leo in the chat. He berates me about not watching enough anime. It's very hard. Okay, I watched the Terminator anime.
It's great. The Terminator anime is awesome. It's awesome. It starts slow, but then it gets really good.
I'd watched a bunch of like, I don't know, I watched a 18 episode Transformers thing that was on in like 2021. I just like had it. It was amazing. There's so much stuff that I want to get to. Like my brother's name is Scott, and my name is Kirk. And my parents got married, and the only thing that was on television they said that was syndicated was Star Trek. And they say they didn't name us after Star Trek characters, but I'm like that's not. Like when William Shatner dies, like I'm gonna be devastated because Star Trek has been a massive point in my life. I once emailed into X-Ray Vision with a 3-minute diatribe on the J. Michael Straczynski written show Babylon 5.
Babylon 5, yeah.
I knew my wife, who's in the other room, she watched past here. When I knew she was the one for me when she agreed to watch Babylon 5 with me if I would watch Sex and the City with her. That was the trade-off here. Okay, I have a couple more questions, then I'll let you go here. This is for my co-host Josh.
Sure.
Which Batman movie is your favorite?
Oh, geez. I mean, probably The Dark Knight. I think the entire Nolan trilogy is awesome. Begins is also. I'll never forget. I was working as a cater waiter at the time Begins dropped, and we were I was working in New York City as a cater waiter, and they sent us on a bus to Philly because we were doing an event at the Museum of Arts in Philly, where Rocky runs up the steps. And so we're all in our little tuxes there, and everybody who's like in this cater waiter cadre is like wannabe actors, recent immigrants to New York City, like models who didn't make it, like all these, like just a hodgepodge of different folks. And this guy who I think was an actor, we were talking about it, and I was like, I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. I was disappointed by the previous Batman stuff from the 90s and late 90s and early 2000s. And he was like, he like I'll never forget. He took off his like headphones and he put them down very seriously. And he was like, "It's everything that Batman should be. You need to go watch it now." And I was like, "Okay, I'll watch it." And then I was blown away. And so I would say The Dark Knight is my favorite. I think it's it's honestly one of the great movies of the aughts, just in general.
I like that.
I mean, I really liked Matt Reeves's The Batman recently. I think it's underrated and people don't talk about it enough.
I'm having an alarmingly good time with the Penguin.
The Penguin is so good.
It's
people out there. You're not a comic book person. You didn't see Matt Reeves's The Batman. You don't care about Batman. Give The Penguin a try.
Just watch
My fiance is watching it. She's not a comic book person, and she's in. It's just great. And Colin Farrell gives a performance for the ages where you forget within 5 seconds that it's him. He's a completely other guy. The writing is fantastic. The performances are wonderful. It just looks great, and it's a great organized crime show with connections to the Batman universe that if you're interested in, you can enjoy and explore. But if you're not interested in, you can just ignore it. It doesn't matter. It's great.
So one of the questions we almost hit this in the very beginning, and I saved it till the end just because it's very ungodly nerdy. So you mentioned that we played Destiny a long time ago.
Yes, we did.
I dipped into the metadata because you can find all this. You can find all this stuff.
I have a lot of bad feelings. I loved that time. I have a lot of bad feelings, particularly around the fact that I never acquired Galahorn when it mattered.
That gets to the crux of my question. But this is going to be ridiculous. But the December 23rd, 2014, it actually might have been 24th, might have been Christmas Eve. We beat Crota for the first time. That was the thing you and I did together. With that in mind, if you were to name one video game experience, maybe like moment, not like a game, but like thing from a game that you draw back to, what would it be?
Honestly, those first raids, the first Vault of Glass raid, the first one I ever did with you guys, and this is like the vault had open. It had maybe been open like a week.
Yep.
Or something like that. Like
we're all very underpowered. We shouldn't have done it.
We shouldn't have done it, but it felt. I had played a lot of Halo. Halo 2, I probably played 10,000 hours of Halo 2. I was in a very dark place at that time. Halo 3, I played a lot of Halo 3. I made a couple of compilation play videos that are still on YouTube from Halo 3. But that Destiny raid, I had never done raids. My brother was a Warcraft guy. I was not a Warcraft guy, so I had never done anything like that.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
And it was just amazing and so fun. And the communication, like helping each other through the different parts, and like the more experienced players being like, okay, here's the part where you like duck down and you have to do this, this, and this. And then to get to the final boss fight, it was just awesome, man. It was tremendous. It was like a 4-hour, 3-hour like adventure.
I didn't know games could do that.
Vault of Glass. Yeah, I did not know that it could be like that. And it was tremendous.
I badgered you a little bit during COVID lockdowns. I essentially survived COVID by playing Sea of Thieves. Like
I had a great time on that.
You only played a little bit, but it's like I just like the community type game experiences or something. And now that it's harder and harder to do. Are you playing anything right now that you really like?
Nothing that I really like. I've got a bunch of projects that I'm trying to finish in the last, and it's like if I fire up a video game, it's like, I feel like I'm really cheating. I think the one game that I return to, sort of now and then, even though the game totally fucking sucks, is Chivalry 2, which is a medieval war game in which you could play you can fight in 60-player battles across like a vast map. And it's like 30 versus 30. And it's just like a medieval battle, and you will see some of the dumbest things in that game that you have
I love the randomness. That's why I like the pirate.
The randomness is fantastic. Like you'll be in the middle of like this fight. I'll have my axe out. I'm trying to fight off like various enemies. I'll look over and there's just like a player, an actual player with a shovel who's just like shoveling shit. And then someone will come up and just like bash him on the head with a sledgehammer. And that's it. And you'll be like, what the fuck was that? The game sucks. It's terrible. The hit detection, everything. I hate it. But I need a game where I can just turn it on for 10 minutes and then go, I kind of had fun. I admit that this sucks. I don't want anything deeper. I need to walk away. Chivalry 2. You can probably download it for $14 on whatever platform you play on.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I'm playing a little Starfield here and there, and my son basically, he and I had played Breath of the Wild, and then he was like, I want to play Pokemon, so he fell into a Pokemon hole for a year, and now we're playing Breath of the Wild again. 1.5 more questions, and I've kept you 5 minutes longer than I meant to. I'm really sorry.
No, it's fine.
So I hear you name dropped on other shows, and I think you read all the time. Is that?
I read a lot.
So 1, how? 2, what are you reading? Like, what are you reading lately that you recommend to people?
Oh, this is great. I'm so happy to be able to do this. So I do read. I read all the time. I'm a voracious reader. I feel like I can't write unless I'm reading a lot. It helps me understand. Writing is weird for anybody that doesn't do it, that hasn't done it seriously, because I feel like I have to remind myself how to do it literally every single time. Part of that process is reading. I read in the shower with my Kindle because Kindles are waterproof. It's a weird fact about me.
Is it really?
I read right before bed. I read right in the morning. I try to read about 10 pages a day, and you can finish a book and a half, 2 books a month if you do that. Okay, what am I reading? Matthew Richardson is an author I discovered semi-recently. He wrote a book called The Scarlet Papers, which came out last year or the year before. Kind of long, 500 pages, incredible espionage thriller. Awesome. That's one of my favorite genres to read. And, since Le Carré passed away, I like Alan First too, but Alan First only works in the World War II mode, the years between like 1937 and 1941. That's like the only period of time he writes in, but he's like great at writing that period of time.
Sure.
Sometimes I want something else. And Matthew Richardson is a guy that I found that's just fantastic. So I read The Scarlet Papers, awesome. His first book, My Name is Nobody, is also very good, not quite Scarlet Papers level, but a great way to get acclimated to his style of writing. I recently read M.T. Anderson's novel Nicked, which is kind of like a medieval heist story. Super breezy, well-researched, fun book. I really enjoyed it. Let's see. Let me just quickly gaze at my stuff. Oh, I'm reading right now S.A. Cosby's Blacktop Wasteland, which is kind of a neo-noir set in the DC, Virginia area. That's awesome. And let's see, what else? Reading several history books, but those are annoying.
No, I used to read history on the Metro because it's the only thing where I wouldn't miss my stop.
The Maniac by Benjamin Labatut. I've read recently. It's very weird combination of fiction and history that I highly recommend. But again, it's super strange. And then Patrick Hoffman is a crime writer that Chris Ryan from The Ringer turned me on to. His most recent book was Clean Hands, and it kind of blends crime with corporate espionage in a way that's quite bloody and murderous. Oh, and one of my favorite things I've written that I've read recently is Everybody Knows by Jordan Harper, which is fast-paced, bloody, and fantastic story about a PR professional in LA who gets sick of everything she's seeing and teams up with her ex-boyfriend, who is a dirty cop who has gone private, and together they try to take on this criminal conspiracy that they've become aware of. It's really cool, very bloody. If you're aware of famous crimes in the LA area, it references like so many of them, from the the murders up in the Hollywood Hills that were in what's the movie, what's the porn movie that starred Marky Mark? And I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of this movie. Anyway, there's a murder in that is a reference to a real thing. That's referenced in Everybody Knows. It's great. Everybody Knows. Awesome. Read that if you're gonna read any of my recommendations. Start with Everybody Knows and go to the Scarlet Papers next.
I like that. I have been because my problem is I fall asleep, but I've been reading this. I bought them years ago because I put things on my Kindle wish list and then buy them when they go on sale for like $3. And so now, because I've had like over the last 10 years, I have so many books Boogie Nights, yeah. Oh man, okay, that's my bad. I've been reading this Pierce Brown series that started with the book Red Rising.
Oh yeah,
and Red
Rising's great.
I'm through 3.5 of them, and I'm like, this is and it like I actually stay awake to read it. I also, if you've never read him, I recommend anything in Joe Abercrombie's catalog.
Joe Abercrombie, yes.
I just love that guy's writing. Just a great time. Okay, well, basketball fans, we've been talking about other stuff. I took way too much of Jason's time. Jason, thank you so much for hanging out here. Please, guys, go subscribe to Six Trophies. And if it's your thing, I do also recommend X-Ray Vision. I've enjoyed the more frequent publishing schedule. You guys are dipping into more things. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about all the stuff that we're watching and that we like. We're covering The Penguin, we're covering Agatha All Along, and various other spooky movies as we enter the holiday Halloween season.
That's right. All right, guys, this has been Kirk Henderson and Jason Concepcion. This has been Kirk Your Enthusiasm on Pod Maverick. Please like and subscribe and do all that fun stuff. Leave comments. We really appreciate everyone's time. Go Mavs, and see you guys on Monday night.